All right, looks like it's live, mostly, and such. So should start on my computer soon. All right, looks like it's live. It's working. All right. So pop out the chat and move this over here and there. Okay, almost done with the logistics of live roaming. Okay, I don't have much. There's no comments, which is, it's okay because they usually just piss me off anyway, right? So maybe it's better that way. So some asshole says, so this is a video on the Torrance, Wallace Thornhill or whatever, the Electric Universe people. Is this surfer dude explains astrophysics? I mean, I never use the word dude. They're like into electricity. That's bogus, man. So I do like the word bogus. But yeah, great argument, douche. Alex Castro. Huh. Great defense of the idea of the electric universe, which just doesn't make any sense at all because electricity isn't anything like gravity. It just really isn't. So it's all kind of, what the fuck? So, I did watch another video by, what the hell is it called? Looking Glass Universe. Yeah, somebody suggested. And they're pretty horrible videos, actually. So I'll have to probably do some response videos. But, yeah, it's all this, She doesn't even believe in any of the interpretations of quantum mechanics she just explains them as if, they're real things. And then concedes she can't tell one from the other, can't figure out which one's better, which doesn't make any sense either. It's just such crap. So where's the dam? That's not what I want. I don't know why the pop-up window is so far away from the Google window. Yeah, that one's there. That one's there. Okay. All right. Anyway, so one viewer. Gee, I guess scheduling these doesn't really work. Anyway, well, it's only 1 minute after 4. So maybe that's the reason or something. I don't know. Maybe people don't get notifications. I don't know. It seems kind of weird, but yeah, whatever. So anyway, just I guess so it's just general stuff. I've been thinking about different subjects and mostly about how to create a simulation. And it just gets so dense. There's just so many, you have to, well, anyway, yeah, it's hard to reduce it to something simple enough to, just punch a few numbers into a simulator, that you first have to make, pretty much. But anyway, what else? Oh, that the Hilster guy who talked to the Earth must have been smaller because dinosaurs were big guy. And it's just such a pile of crap. I mean, dinosaurs, first off, they weren't that big. I mean, they're big, but they're not that big. And so you're just like, why do they make such a hype out of this idea that dinosaurs couldn't get along in gravity? I mean, they could. I mean, mammoths got along. And they weren't that much smaller than dinosaurs. I mean, they were smaller, but, not that much smaller. And the whole idea of less gravity screws up all the other animals that we know lived at the same time the dinosaurs did, and they were a bunch of small animals. There wasn't like the error of the dinosaur didn't mean everything was big. There was still cockroaches. There was still little bugs. Just some of them were bigger bugs too. So anyway, I he did read my comment, where I asked, the less dense atmosphere, how did the dinosaurs breathe? And the guy really didn't have an answer. He just made up some stuff like, well, they do say that if they were the big dinosaurs could breathe better in a lighter atmosphere. By what theory? Just so anyway. So it's just this whole, everything looks like pseudoscience, and it's like science looks like junk science, and the junk science looks like junk science. And it's like nobody really wants to pick at anything. One observation, one weirdness, and the entire science just allows itself to be dragged into the weirdness. It's like seeing Mary in toast or something. Just doesn't look like any kind of sense at all. So I've looked at so yes, you ever look into the delayed choice quantum eraser experiment? Again, these by very definition, they're silly. Delayed choice. Like that can happen. I've always pointed out that the polarization experiments are all kind of bogus, because they're based on, again, just assumptions that have never been proven regarding whether even polarizing, first off, whether it is 50-50, and second, the idea that the polarizing filter actually changes the light. It doesn't just filter, it changes the polarization of the light that goes through. So, I mean, none of them, too many moving parts. It just doesn't, I don't know why people have to keep thinking it means something. And stupid assumptions going in, like Piro's kind of magic crystal stuff, right? I mean, the delayed choice one, isn't that the one that uses the entangled photons? Please. No evidence of such things. Just there isn't. So yeah, there's lots of experiments that are really convoluted and really fancy, and there's nothing you can say. Yo is whatever this is, Guillermo Ugly IRI. I don't know what that could mean. No idea. Elections Canada. Whatever. Fuck off. Or the next best thing. Die. Yeah. Please. Jesus Christ. People. So anyway, to all these quantum mechanics things, so she was talking about the, I guess what they call it, the Broglie interpretation of quantum mechanics. I don't know what your little Canada guy, question mark, question mark, question mark. You wrote indecipherable gibberish, so I deleted it. What do you expect? Oh, man. Anyway, and so they have shorthand for it. What does she call the shorthand? Well, anyway, so it's this interpretation where, oh yeah, well, this is a classical interpretation of quantum mechanics, and so it's just all the wackiness just happens. So that's so instead, so they don't even bother with the wave thing. They just say everything travels every single possible path and somehow averages them all out into one path or some kind of. It does well. Yeah, I can't even make sense of it. But they call it a hidden variable, and it's just forget it. Thoughts on Theora Apopopulopsis' latest antics? Well, I don't know about antics. I mean, the fact that he doesn't have the courage to admit he was wrong to make all those accusations about that other photographer guy is just amazing, because he's clearly paying for it, because people are going to keep harassing him about it until he just fesses up that it was bullshit. But But I mean, his videos are just silly. I mean, he's posted a video now saying that the reason why they grow bigger cabbages in Alaska, isn't because of the longer days. It's because of the magnetism. And, he doesn't have any evidence whatsoever to back that up. Just nothing. So the Canada guy, again, makes himself an idiot. Look, I'll give you one more chance to type something reasonable. I mean, asking me about flat Earth is like asking me about the expanding anus theory or something. I mean, it's just retarded. Just go to retard town. You're just insulting somebody's intelligence, and maybe that's what you intend to do. You intend to insult my intelligence by asking a preposterously silly inquiry. Shithead. He's recently discovered the latest alien technology. Oh, I didn't see the alien technology, so that must be today's video or something. I don't know where this alien technology came out from. Quantum mechanics is wrong. The world is deterministic. I don't know if some versions of quantum mechanics don't necessarily destroy determinism, but yes, clearly determinism isn't why quantum mechanics is wrong. It's wrong because there's no evidence. They have no theory of cause. And it's silly that they can't even imagine the possibility. Like, they have all these interpretations of quantum mechanics, and not one single interpretation says, hey, maybe we should see those slits might be interfering with the light somehow. Like, there might be electrons or something next to the slits or something like that. There might be some influence, the material. Because how come a single surface, right? We never hear about the single surface interference pattern. But guess what? Even single surfaces do it. We never hear about that. I mean, it's just such horrible physics. And they're so confident. They're so sure of themselves. And they just keep marching and drumming this stupid beat. That, oh, yeah, it'd be silly to consider the slits having something to do, the matter, having something to do with why the photons are deflected. And that's all they are. They're just deflected. They're not doing anything that miraculous except changing their direction. So, okay, let me just get rid of the flat Earth idiot. Quantum mechanics is okay. Let's see. Magnetic cabbage. Yeah. I mean, it's fine if he has some real evidence, but his evidence is his growing of his seeds is entirely subjective. I mean, first he shakes the one bottle and then says, look how it's a clump. See, it's a clump, and says they smell different, says they taste different. Well, that's really not very good scientific evidence. I mean, he just doesn't, he just says this shit. He doesn't prove any of it. And what evidence do you have that the Earth is losing mass but gaining volume? I don't know. What the hell is that? Why should I waste any time worrying about whether the Earth is getting lighter but bigger? I mean, it seems pretty obvious that we're made of the same biology that organisms millions and millions and millions of years ago were. And that biology is kind of dependent on the air pressure we're under now. It doesn't, so I mean, I don't know. It just seems kind of silly to think, oh, yes, the Earth has gone through huge, gigantic changes in its basic gravity and environmental circumstances. There's no evidence of radical changes, except in things like temperature and humidity. Oh. about color shift again. I don't know what color shift has to do with anything. I mean, what do you call color shift? So you mean red or blue shift? Okay. What forces could move electrons apart in your model? What forces could move electrons apart? What is electrons having to be moved apart have to do with redshift? They don't really have to be. If you're moving, the whole point is if you're even if you were shooting a gun, you could figure it out the back of a car going 60 miles an hour. You could sort of figure out that the bullets are going to be hitting the target at a different period than if you weren't moving away. They're not going to hit as fast on the target. There's going to be a longer time delay between when the bullets hit. You know, it's not that complicated. But clearly, anything can affect electron pressure, as I pointed out. Any of the whole electromagnetic spectrum is made of the same force that affects protons, and anything that creates a voltage is basically changes the distance between electrons. So the higher the voltage, the faster the frequency. That's why you can produce X-rays with a high voltage electron gun. Anyway, I'm going to discover a new color in my lifetime. All right, well, I guess we'll just say goodbye to you forever. Canada guy, you're obviously a typical Canadian. You're fucking retarded. Jesus. It's just the creatures walking this earth is just so bad. Anyway, I've been thinking some more just about, you know, the question video still has 0 comments on it. You know, so, you know, ask 3 simple questions, get no answers. And, you know, I have a couple more to add, but there's, you know, there's got to be some way to force them to play fair when they do these demonstrations of the foundations of quantum mechanics, because you always use the 2 slit as the example. And clearly the single slit is the more interesting example in one respect, in the sense that there's no, Huygens makes a lot less sense. This idea of, you know, the single photon doesn't even go through 2 slits, you know, it just somehow turns into 2 photons. And then again, the single surface fact that you also get a pattern, you know, they should have to account for all that and then explain how any of this crap makes any sense consistently. And another thing they do, it's really disgusting, is they talk about it all like particles. Like Newton somehow knew that every particle was exactly the same and that every particle behaved exactly the same. As if Newton had some expectation that gravity and electricity and magnetism wouldn't be in some fundamental way different. Like they could have been made out of the same thing, but again, they'd have to have a difference because they're clearly different in how they behave. And so they always say particle, and they always say it like everything's the same, like a photon and an electron and an atom. They're all the same thing. So they talk about this quantum mechanics as if these aren't completely different things. I mean, a photon is the smallest thing, and it's moving the speed of light. Electron is a charged thing, okay? It doesn't move the speed of light, doesn't maintain any velocity. And an atom is a collection of electrons and protons that are bound to each other. So they're really not the same thing. You can't just say particle. Oh, I mean any one of those 3 things. I mean, isn't that being silly? It's like saying all radiation is the same. It's just, you know, it's such a cheat of the argument. Let's see. There's no such thing as protons. Well, it says you. just the dielectric. Oh, here we go. Hyperboloid divergence toroid. Okay, you're making a joke. I've learned this from the wise Ken Wheeler, by the way. Yes, well, I'm just saying, obviously, Ken Wheeler has absolutely no photographs of this hyperboloid toroid whatever thingy. So, where's his evidence that there's anything moving? I mean, it seems like an obvious thing. If there was all this force around magnets that were moving, that you'd just be able to put a magnet somewhere and put anything around it, and the magnet would creep or move or do something. It can't be a bunch of forces swirling about without us being able to detect them in any way. That's another part of physics, where physics does such a poor job of explaining, when they're using field lines, they're using them as an abstraction. They're a representation of the intensity of a force. They're representing the voltage. They're representing a function. They're not a diagram of the function. And it's just too often, but it's their own fault, because they do draw these silly arrows because of the stupid right-hand rule, because electrons and protons are different, and you have a north and a south side of the magnet. They have this idiotic notion that the magnet's recycling something, and it's not doing any of that. It just has an electron half and a proton half, and therefore when it creates a voltage, it'll have a positive end and a negative end. And so, yes, there's a right-hand rule, but it only has to do with the fact that, yeah, there's an electron force and a proton force, but there's no moving, nothing circulating around magnets. What are your thoughts on Newton's 3 laws? Well, obviously, they're so simple that what thought do you want me to have? I mean, yes, stuff will travel in a straight line until something affects it. Yes. I mean, this is, equal and opposite reaction. Yes. I mean, it's not that complicated. The whole word laws is so dangerous. Most of the stuff is just tendencies. You can't, there's always some circumstance where you could be fooled. All right, you seem to me another idiot. You haven't seen people vaping nicotine? Hey, god damn. I mean, I've been vaping for 7 years. Like 7 anyway. 6, something like that. Not that big a curiosity. Sorry, I'm in a kind of crappy mood. Probably shouldn't do a room, but I just thought I would, just because, yeah, I'm frustrated. I mean, it's all so bad. Like I said, if you watch the David D. Hilster conversation about the stupid, small Earth theory, I mean, they actually believe the oil in the ground is created by the Earth. I mean, it's, the geology of oil is so well understood. Obviously, there's big money in it and all that kind of stuff. And, the shale oil is full of fossils. And I think in regular crude oil, they find microfossils in the crude oil. I mean, it's obvious it's not manufactured by the planet. I mean, fuck. But I mean, the whole timeline of the decomposition, the fact that coal is the younger version, and, it's just so obvious. It's just like, What? You're gonna argue with that obvious evolution of oil in the earth and pretend you think the earth makes oil? You know, and they think the water does the same thing. Somehow the earth manufactures water. So that's how the oceans were created. But it still doesn't make any sense. I mean, without rainfall, right? We know the groundwater doesn't make it to the surface, right? I mean, that's sort of, you could argue, is sort of a proven fact because deserts wouldn't be deserts if groundwater could fix the problem. Deserts are deserts because the rainwater, any that falls, evaporates before it becomes groundwater. So, what sense does that make? Yeah, we'll go look up the David D. Hilster thing, whatever he's called, dissident science. So he just did a recent video. He interviewed some wacko with a, small Earth dinosaurs are big because there was less gravity on Earth theory. And they have no evidence. It's just this. It's just so annoying because they just make dissident science look stupid. They make everybody who pokes a finger at the conventional crap as being crap look fucking stupid because their counter theory is even more UFO than the fucking theory they're trying to dethrone. I mean, they're they're just literally they're pointing a finger of imprecision and lack of evidence and then they do exactly the same thing. It's just so bad. All right, I guess I can get rid of the FOE guy. He's obviously too retarded for conversation. Let's see. It's good to vent. Go ahead and let it out. Yeah, this is all useless rubbish. So, fuck off. I did try to unblock the guy I overblocked the other day, but he hasn't even shown up on my whatever the block list. So I subscribe to his channel. I figure that might help, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, YouTube's blocking system is so stupid. I mean, they had a nice little thing called blocking people, and then they turned it into hide. Hide the user. Just fuck that shit. So let's see, what else can I yammer about? It's mostly quantum mechanics and and the fact that they just keep doing the same thing. Like I said, the girl physicist thing. She's 2 videos. She does the same thing in terms of this grotesque simplification. Where look, you have one slit that just makes a lump. If you open the doors, talking about experiments that never been done. The detecting the photon experiment that never has been done, detecting the electrons, even detecting anything. They've never put detectors on any of these experiments and never tried to detect anything. It's just a fairy tale they tell. Oh, if we have detectors on, we can't tell what happened. The pattern goes away. Where's your evidence you ever did that? Oh, that's right. There's no evidence at all they ever did that. I mean, obviously you can't detect a photon. Impossible. It's just, well, anyway, it's just so fucking stupid. and such. Yeah, well, comments are a little thin. Questions? Anything? Guess not. Here we go. I'm more interested in local color change. I don't know what that would mean either. Local. Like the blue shift inside big mass of water. What that means. And yellow shift in dust storms. I don't know why you think those things actually happen. Do you have any rational about those phenomena? I don't think they're anything that's real. So, I mean, the blue in water is an atmospheric effect. The water isn't blue. it's not getting shifted. It's just that the other colors get absorbed out of the atmosphere, and the only color left is blue. So that's why it's blue. I would imagine in dust storms, dust is, red or yellow brown or something. I don't know what you mean. I don't even know how where you have evidence that the dust storms are shifted. I've never seen that. I mean, I don't think a tornado could even move dust fast enough to create a shift in color. I mean, the fastest mile per hour that the piece of sand would be spinning in a tornado is like 250 miles an hour or something, or 300 or whatever it is. It's not that fast. So you have to source that, I guess, because I have no clue what you're talking about. Not getting enough nicotine out of this fucker. I'm gonna buy a better tank someday. A tank that actually works. I don't have to keep dripping. Quite correct, Danish physicist. I do think he said red and blue shift would be, you wouldn't be able to detect it. It would be negligibly small amount of shift at hundreds of miles an hour. You have to move things like half the speed of light to start seeing shift. Do you think fusion reactors will work or take energy to fuse the hydrogen atoms and helium, not give it? Well, obviously, I don't think it takes it. It has anything to do with the energy. It has to do with, you have to wait till later. Not now, fucker. The only problem is the container, okay? I think that's the real limitation. They can't make a container because it's too hot. It's not the kind of reaction. I mean, that's why it would be such a great reaction, is because it creates so much heat. So you can get a lot of shit out of it. But it's too hot. So you can't make a container that's capable of holding the reaction, without melting. So you can't really gain the heat from the reaction because it's too hot. I think it's also too much pressure. I mean, I'm not too sure, but I mean, I think you have to create such a high pressure that's another limitation, where uranium, you can just, you can deal with the pressure of, splitting atoms. Let's see. Hydrogen and helium not gives it to fuse hydrogen. Well, anyway, yeah. I'm just saying fusion doesn't have not enough energy problem. Thorium has a not enough energy problem. The one Piro thinks is the solution. That's the one that doesn't have enough energy. London sky cloaked in strange orange glow as storm Ophelia causes dust phenomenon. Well, again, the orange is just a byproduct of probably the reflection of the stuff in the storm cloud. And it might just be because of the angle of the sun, you know, just like the sun gets orange, the sunset, for example, because the light's going through more atmosphere and all the blue light gets absorbed and all you got left is the red and yellows. Get one of those new ultrasonic vape machines. Yeah, well, whatever. I don't get anything new very often. You know, unless somebody else buys it for me, like the microphone. But yeah, I'm a used kind of guy. I mean, it's a little disgusting, but I mean, I bought this used. You know, I buy shit used and broken usually. Is there any useful correlation between separate color frequency vibrations? There we go. And matching sound. No, sound and light are so fucking different. Clearly, sound is in a medium. You know, light is not, in my opinion, and I think it's just demonstrable. And so light never changes speed. And let's see, what's another way to put it? Another way to, I mean, I can't prove it to people who've been obsessed with this wave crap, I guess. But I just mean that there's no medium for light. So they have almost nothing in common. They don't move the same way. I mean, sound doesn't move in a straight line, you know, little, you know, you might have a ray of sound, but you'll never have rays of sound that won't be spreading. You know, it's the medium absorbs it. Sound can't go forever, it wears out. Lots of dissimilarities between sound and light. How much calculus do you know? Very little. I mean, I know enough to know what a derivative is, and I know what a I know fundamentally calculus was invented just to be able to do averaging over time, and that makes sense. You need to do averaging over time. But yeah, I probably want to do some kind of, I would want the average to be more explicit that that's all it is. It's an average. You're just doing a little bit of here, a little here, a little, you're taking a sample in 100 different places and then averaging the samples, that kind of thing. I just wish they would be more explicit about the fact that their calculus isn't, you know, some explicit thing. It's just an averaging because they, you know, they have to. They don't have a choice. You know, when 1 million things, when there's 1 million events, you can't take notice of all 1 million events. Well, derivatives are just, let's see, I don't know. Why are you asking me? Go Google it. I mean, you know, it's just a modification of a, you're trying to find some, like there's missing variables. And what you're trying to do is isolate the variables to things that you do know. So you're trying to get all the things you know on one side of the equation, all the things you don't know on one side of the equation. And that way you can learn something. So derivatives are just a way of rewriting, you know, 2 plus 3, and instead you write it 3 plus 2. And now, basically, it doesn't matter in most circumstances, but in some circumstances, it matters in what order you add things. The number will come out different. How else to say it? But it is a little bit annoying because in many experiments, you don't need to do any derivatives of the equation because you know the variables. And I wish they would just do the math and demonstrate whether their math is approximating an answer or whether it's as explicit as they think it is, because that would give them an indication that maybe their math isn't as precise as they think it is, because the equation they start with, if they actually do the math, they don't get exactly the right answer. And that should tell them something. It should tell them, like Newton, that they still haven't found it all yet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard calculus was invented to explain why the moon doesn't fall to Earth. No. If gravity pulls things to the center. No. No. Yeah. I mean, they already knew why the moon doesn't fall to the Earth, because they knew it has a velocity in another direction. And the velocity in another direction won't let it fall into the Earth. You don't need calculus to figure that out. Yeah, well, that's why I don't use the batteries, right? Batteries are dangerous. Lithium batteries, and it's right in your face. And some of them, they're overjuicing these things. They're trying to pull, 50 watts out of a lithium battery. And it's asking a lot. Let's see, Puro, can you explain the expanding Earth theory using force bit theory? Why would I do that? I don't think the Earth is expanding. So I don't know why I would do that. I believe in conservation, and I believe the only way it could expand is by losing pressure somehow. So it'd have to be the cooling Earth also theory. If the Earth is expanding, then it's got to be cooling also, because the energy has to come from somewhere. Has to go somewhere. The pressure, less heat. Slightly related. Have you noticed the sudden increase in subscribers for Dissident Science? Yes. Well, he's got fancy icons. He's got eye candy, and he tells everybody in every video how they have to hit their little bell and do all their little bullshit. So good for him. I'm only getting like 1.5 subscribers a day. It's just, I don't really care. I want quality, not quantity. I want people that can actually argue some of this shit. The king, yeah, I heard about that. I don't know. The king, yeah, I heard about that. I don't know what that means. Oh, I guess he's talking to somebody named the king. Yeah. I know another guy got his, I mean, it's always dangerous. There's a lot of people have had accidents, the battery explodes and the thing gets pushed right into their teeth, had their teeth knocked out. But anyway, like I said, it's, that's why I would only use this one screws into a stainless steel container that holds the battery. So if the battery ever blew up, it wouldn't, less likely to cause trouble. But anyway, but the new ones are all plastic, so. So it went from 500 to 1,500 to 2,000 in a few days, I think. That means 1,500 to 2,000 in a few days. I think. Well, I think you can think that, but I don't think he has 2,000 subscribers. But whatever. I don't know how he got that many that quickly, but whatever. Could have happened. I mean, last I noticed, he had 540 or something. I always thought you had to be a math whiz in order to be decent at physics. Well, physics can be done. I mean, there's models that are mathematical, and then there's models that are structural. So, I mean, clearly you can understand physics by modeling things, even just drawing them on paper. So it's just understanding things mechanically. Yeah, the dissident guy used math to show how their math doesn't add up. Yeah, well, again, I'm suspect of people who make arguments against mathematics because, frankly, I don't think you can make mathematical arguments because the math is so convoluted anyway. You know, I mean, I can't. Obviously I can't sit there and judge the person's. I caught a mathematical error when I don't understand how the original equation works. How the fuck am I going to understand their criticism of the math? But anyway, but the dinosaurs were so big. Ha 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 ha. So I don't know. Piero's doing jokes now. You know, yeah, they really weren't that big though. You know, they just weren't. I mean, 50 feet is big, but you know, it's not that big. You know, from head to tail. You know, and most of them, the bulk of their body mass wasn't more than 15, 20 feet off the ground. The wise monkey. That's a horrible name from the past. Anyway, did you ever get your physics degree, wise monkey? Weren't you going to go to college or something? I thought you were going to go to college and become a scientist or something. But maybe you just end up taking a silly philosophy degree like Piro. Anyway, if the core has a reactor core, whatever that means, that is breaking down to other elements, it would expand. If the core has a reactor core that is breaking down into other elements, it would expand. Well, you say it would expand. I'm just saying that obviously energy can be dissipated in lots of ways. So it only expands if the energy can't escape. But again, where's the evidence of any of that? I think all the heat in the interior of the universe just has to do with all the gravitational torque, frankly. I mean, right now I'm putting pressure on the Earth, the center of the Earth. The dirt below me is putting pressure on the center of the Earth. The dirt below that is putting pressure on the center of the Earth. You see, if you add up all that pressure, it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of things standing. If there were people in the center of the Earth, there's a lot of other people standing on their heads. So there's lots of pressure in there. All right, let's see. We got more comments coming too fast. Oh, look at that. They sped right past me. Oh, jeez. All right. He does. I was just there. It's 21,000 K to 2.1 K. Yeah, obviously he must have had a video that went viral or something. So good for him, but he's an idiot. So who cares? You know, I mean, he's talking shit. He had an increase in subs, but no increase in likes or views. Yeah, there was only 10 people showed up for his live room. So, but yeah, well, I don't know. You know, what can I say? I don't know if you can buy subscribers. I guess you can. But yeah, they're obviously not real people, so they're not worth much. Anyway, yeah, thanks for confirming, Peggy. Maybe he bought some. Yeah, I guess that's what he did. Or, like I said, you know, people subscribe sometimes because a video goes viral, but those people are absolutely useless. I mean, I had a video once that got like 60,000 views on my other channel, and I didn't gain a single rational person from those views. So, you know, are researchers finding anything useful with atom smashing particle accelerators? Useful to who, I guess, would be the question. I don't think they ever found anything useful, frankly. I don't think an atom smasher has ever produced anything of value, frankly. It just hasn't. Every bit of it is just theoretical physics mush that doesn't have anything to do with any everyday function. Just, they don't, where's the product that is made by neutrinos? You know what I mean? I mean, there's nothing, there's no physics, there's no practical physics that uses any of these bizarre particles. I'm disappointed, though, because if you were on board, the force bits that get caught could be accumulating and increasing the mass of the Earth. Dang. I don't know. You just want to make jokes or something? Fine. You're just wasting my time, fucker. Anyway, Africa. I don't know what that means. Hawaii, whatever. Let's see. Yuri Adams. Are you talking about the sun? So now this guy's going to try to talk to one of the idiots in the comment section. Good luck with that. The outward pressure generated by fusion is in equilibrium with them weight, so it doesn't expand. Yeah, well, if it was happening inside the Earth, I just don't know. There's clearly the sun doesn't have to worry because it doesn't get very clogged. I mean, obviously, they're arguing that sunspots are basically energy that just can't quite get to the surface. So it builds up a little bit of extra pressure, and then it has a boom, pops. But, you know, so the Earth could clearly, it's more like, the Earth is more like a pipe bomb. So you could sort of expect that some pressure, and then the pressure would escape like volcanoes. But yeah, I don't know where all that crap talk is going anywhere. I forgot the whole theme of that conversation. I don't think there's any nuclear engine inside the Earth. This Physics 1 class I just started has been pretty difficult so far. I'm still trying to learn how to solve problems using Newton's 3 laws and the force of gravity near Earth. Yeah, well, that part isn't that difficult. I mean, this is, you know, it's Einstein's math that's difficult. Anyway, the Danish physicists know the Earth. Physicists, I don't know what he's saying there. On the Earth, well, whatever. When are you going to do something instead of just talking on your computer? Well, I have done something, idiot. I've developed an entire theory that unifies all the forces, called the Unification theory, something Albert Einstein spent his whole life seeking, and it works. So that's doing something, idiot. I don't know. Fucking cunts. You are spot on, Gary, with D Guy. Sounds very much like purchase subscribers. Yes. Well, he's clearly. What the fuck is. It's up in my attic now. Damn it. Jesus, always critters. Under the house, over the house. Fucking damn. You know, I always trying to steal my little comfort here. Yeah, well, he's obviously trying to build a channel and be a whatever he's trying to be. I mean, obviously, I'm just, you know, I like it. You know, the guy's okay. I just, you know, this is just, it sounds like a used car salesman now. This all just sounds like hype. It's exactly the wrong message to be sending as dissidents. It just makes us all look like fucking tinfoil hat assholes. So that part pisses me off. Can you roast, make fun of the concept of the God particle? Well, how can I? Because there's no concept. They don't have a concept in physics. It's some particle field thing, right? So it doesn't even, there's a particle, and every particle has its own field. Okay, so that's what they think. So they think there's an electron field, and they think there's a photon field. So there's an ether essentially for every single particle. So apparently the Higgs is some kind of gravity particle. You know, somehow it just makes more attraction fun. I don't know if it does repulsion too. See, it's not like charge. See, that's how stupid this whole conversation gets. It's just so obvious that charge is the creation of the idea of low pressure, which means, you know, attraction. And they're just not getting it. It's just so obvious. But anyway, really irritating. All right. Why the time difference in space than on the Earth if special and general relativity are wrong? So you're just being an asshole. I mean, I've explained this so many times. First off, it's just about velocity. And the point is we on the surface of the Earth are more time dilated. So just understand, the satellites going 22,000 miles an hour aren't time dilated. We are here on Earth. So effectively, we're somehow going more than 22,000 miles an hour. And why, how can you think about that? Well, it's because of the gravity. So if something is in a weak gravity, then when they're moving, they're releasing very little. So you think there's an actual circular path. No, nothing travels a circle. It travels little angular lines, okay, little jagged lines. So the satellites are just bouncing very weak because the gravity's very weak. We, on the surface of the Earth, are bouncing very strongly because we're in strong gravity. That means we're going down 10 meters a second, we're going up 10 meters a second, down 10 meters a second, up 10 meters a second. So it's like a bouncing basketball, you see. It's traveling a lot of distance. That means its velocity is a lot higher than the person dribbling the ball. And that's giving you a general explanation. There's only a relationship between velocity and a retardation of metabolism. There's no proof that time changes. There's no evidence that space-time bends, that any of that crap happens. There's zero evidence. So Einstein's stupid theory isn't the only way to understand why atoms decay slower when they're moving. And I've given the dancing analogy so many times I shouldn't have to do it again. But if you're dancing as fast as you can in one place and I tell you to move, you can't dance as fast. Fuckhead. All right. So, Yuri Adams, since when was the Earth breaking down elements? Well, heat will do that, but yes, I don't think it's destroying atoms. And yes, I agree. I was thinking about your simulation and realized there is a problem. Oh, I don't think so. You need like millions. No, you don't. You could average them out of simulated bits to get anything like a two-body problem simulated. No, you don't. You just average the pressure. So that problem's easy to fix. Not easy, but I mean, you have to just average it all. I mean, it certainly do gravity fine. It's when you scale to do electricity and gravity at the same time, that's when you're going to get into a density problem. But I still think I could simulate it. So maybe I'll just try to do some stop motion to give the idea of it, and then you can look at it and say, oh yeah, I can do that with a computer program. What kind of person do you have to be to just contribute negative shit to this topic? I don't know what that means, but fine. Hi, I'm going to do some shit with stuff and things. That's very exciting. Bye. Yes, bye. Well, you say it's negative. So he was talking to Piro. Piro's just being snarky and petty and superficial. That's all he was taught how to do. He just doesn't have any other tricks. If particles can be arranged in the microverse to create our consciousness. Oh, you're not doing that. No. We're not doing consciousness. In your opinion, can the particles in the macroverse in theory have the same emergence? Asking for a friend. There's not enough density of function in the big universe. The big universe has asteroid, planet, moon. Just doesn't have enough of these little bits flying around or doing anything interesting. So the big universe is running on the same kind of elemental force, gravity. And so that's the trick. The universe, the big universe gets simple. The little universe at its core is simple. And the stuff in between is complicated. But you can't go the other way around. Uranium doesn't stay uranium over time. Well, duh. I mean, that's why it's called the decaying element. It's here in a good amount now, so over time it must have broken down, plus it's the most dense, so it would be the highest gravity point. Yeah, well, the whole source of radioactive elements and whether or not they are randomly decaying is a whole complex subject, because we have uranium here, but the uranium, every single atom probably came from a different supernova. We have no evidence that all the atoms came from the same supernova. So they are all very different ages. So you don't know whether uranium actually does die because it gets old. You know, it really might wind down. I don't know how else we would know, because we can't create an atom and say, we know how old this atom is. We know how old the helium nucleus is inside this atom or whatever. We have no way of knowing that. The decay might actually be a byproduct of the decay of some elemental part inside the uranium atom. So it might not even be, the decay might be a chain reaction inside the uranium atom that actually takes place because one of the bits actually decays, and because the atom is sensitive to that decay, it falls apart. You know, it loses a hunk of itself. This is sort of an interesting subject, because I was thinking about that today, just thinking about the standard model of the protons and neutrons in the center and the electrons on the outside. And I was thinking how that doesn't really fit when they're fusing atoms or when they split atoms. Because if you think about it, it's kind of messy, right? I mean, if you split a nucleus in half, then the rest of the stuff has to form around it exactly the right way. So I was thinking that maybe it is all mixed in, and what you're really doing is just bisecting like a brain. Like there's two sides of the atom are very similar, and you just bisect the atom, and the atom splits into two lesser atoms. But you know, it does get a little interesting thinking about how you can reform, how you can create two smaller atoms out of one atom in a coherent way. It just seems like it'd be way too messy if all the crap's in the nucleus and all the stuff's on the outside. We should think all the electrons would just say, "Fuck you, I'm I'm leaving." All right, I enjoy your unscripted video format. However, since you've unified physics, could you make a scripted, organized video explaining it to the average person? Well, I've done that. Go on my channel page, and there are playlists, and one of them is called Overview, and the overview videos are basically an attempt to make it all simple. Stop it! You can't live here. Understand? I live here. Damn squatters. Anyway, I was hoping to do something that would stimulate at the bit level. Okay, I don't know what that means. With the right angle turn. Okay. I was hoping to do something that would simulate. Yes, I do see how you would simulate the shadow gravity. Well, it's not really a shadow, it's an absorption. But yes, it's a shadow, but you have to understand, it's not a shadow by reflection. It's a shadow by absorption of acceleration. To create gravity, you actually have to have bits in you accelerating. That's why the Earth is hot. There's a bunch of acceleration towards the center of the Earth, and it's just being stifled. And so its pressure is constantly maintained by that constant acceleration towards the center. Anyway, but to solve all the magnetism too, you need the bits. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just saying, obviously it's a scale problem that you'd have with anything that's going to simulate both gravity and electricity and magnetism, because obviously the scale of the two are functioning at much different scales, you know, this volume scale. So obviously you'd have to modify the formula a little, but you're just modifying because fundamentally gravity's working the same way. It's just not sensitive to the polarization. The polarization is still in effect. The filters are still filtering. It's just they end up filtering in all directions, so they have no polarity. All right. Sure, but that isn't due to nuclear process in the Earth's core. It's just radioactive decay. Yes. That's an element problem, not a planet problem. Yes, exactly. That's what the atoms are doing, not the Earth. I'm not sure we have done enough experiments here or in space. I think we've done enough experiments. It's just that we don't do them carefully enough. Nobody analyzes the fucking experiments. That's the problem. Mr. Keebler, let's see, saying something, Mr. Keebler. The big problem I have with David E. Hilster is that he says he wants critical thinking. Yes, he wants to be critical thinking, except when it comes to a tinfoil hat theory, then he wants you to turn your fucking critical brain off and just say, oh yes, that's really good. Yeah, dinosaurs are big. There's no big things no more, so Earth must have been smaller. Okay, that's all the evidence we need. The Earth makes oil. Sure it does. You know, it makes perfectly good sense that it would make oil. All the other planets are covered in oil. But he only respects people who do it within academic circles. He is a university system bigot. Well, I don't even know about that, but whatever. If splitting atoms is messy, how much of a mess would it be to smash two atoms together that add up to create gold? Well, first you have to find two atoms that are near the same, you know, half of gold's atomic weight. And then you could try to glue those two into a gold atom, I suppose. I mean, there's no law against it. It just obviously takes, I mean, look, they made synthetic diamonds, you know. It's not like it's out of reach to make synthetic gold. It's just probably going to cost you a lot more than the gold's going to be worth. Let's see. Buffalo Bill. Oh, wonderful. Putting the lotion on its skin. Oh, gee. It's like nobody heard that joke ever. You're so original. Such an ass wipe. What movie character are you most like? Freddy Krueger, your little child molester? Is that what you are, Nikki? Nikki the fucking child molester? Yeah, yeah, probably. All right. Sedang, blah, 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 whatever. The king. I like when you roast people, LLL. Well, anyway, I don't like it. I like when I have a conversation with other human beings and we seem to be able to communicate in some kind of common language and actually respect that we have to build a foundation of facts before we can extrapolate and what the facts indicate and what the preponderance of the evidence indicates. That's what I like. I don't really like this rubbish conversation that you people bring to my frickin' house. I like the uninvited, whatever they are. I don't know what the fuck's trying to break in the house now. You have watched David's physics documentary. It's one documentary as far as I can tell. And to call it a documentary would be to, again, just mock the term documentary. It's a little sappy story about, you know, oh, let's call it Einstein wrong, and, you know, we'll just do it in crayon, you know. My mommy will go with me and we'll just talk about how physics is complicated. And I mean, it's, you know, it's a trivialization of physics. And then, you know, like I said, and then when he, you know, he essentially goes to one of his own, you know, tinfoil hat conventions and then talks to all these wacky people. They're all eccentric, loony looking people. Some 90-year-old woman with her fucking dog that's glued to her boob. I mean, you know, Oh, yes, I've proved Einstein an idiot. And she has a dog glued to her breast. I mean, what the fuck? You know, you can't do that. It's, you know. He says intellectualism is a buzzword, but then turns critical thinker into a buzzword. Yes, well, whatever. It is just two used car salesmen. It's just selling, 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 and it's not really proving. We say we know about stars. Well, is Piro still in the room? The thing that the experiment I want to do is the just to get your thoughts about which one would be better is the microwave or radio wave two slit experiment. You know, where you have duplicate uh, antennas produce the beam, and then they say they get the same effect. I think I can prove that's just jamming. They're just jamming their own frequency. So I can prove by the energy produced that there is no interference pattern, that just as much energy is going to each spot. Now, if I do it with microwaves, the danger is I get microwaved, which, you know, I'm not too thrilled with that idea. But if I do it with an AM antenna, then I have to produce a pretty good signal, you know, a lot of gigahertz, you know, you know, and I don't, you know, I'm saying, well, I could get arrested for doing that. So anyway, but yeah, that's an experiment I would definitely want to do because I know that one's, I know it. I just know the truth is it has nothing to do with interference. We say we know about stars and explosions. I don't know if I have a cursor over that word, but I don't know under 8 miles deepest fossil is 1.4, not the same depth as oil. 6 miles, it might be oil, carbon, space, goo. Well, clearly it happened 300 million years ago. It got covered because the Earth is geologically active. There was a big giant glacier sitting on top of right here. You know, hundreds of feet of ice were sitting right here just 10,000 years ago. Come on, the world changes. That's why the oil's down there. It's because it got buried by the huge change in the geology. But you also have to concede that a lot of the oil they don't actually drill straight down. So it's 6 miles because they end up going diagonally. Gary, have you ever tried posting your ideas on Ask Physics Reddit board? Well, I don't do Reddit, so I don't think anybody with a brain is hanging out at Reddit, so I haven't bothered. I have gone to other forums, and they're clearly not interested in having a conversation about the foundations of conventional physics's assumptions. Well, frankly, I don't even know how you do a conversation about physics in chat. I mean, it's just a little bit more complicated than what you're going to be able to chat. So I just don't know if that's viable. I mean, I could walk in there and say, look, I can explain how magnetism works. And then I'm going to type it all. I mean, come on. That sounds like a little bit of a hopeless task. What would you do? Question mark. I don't know what that means. You're trying to avoid putting sound modulation, right? I don't even know what any of that means. What does that mean? People is very, very confusing sometimes. Now, breaking the action. But it would be nice if, a physicist would come in here and make some arguments about, how they have more evidence of quantum mechanics than their silly slit experiments, you know, you know, and how thin that evidence is. Be nice for somebody to explain how the inverted gravity lens magnifies light. How you do that with a concave lens. Can you describe with your theory how a prism separates white light into separate colors with whatever periodic BBSs? Well, obviously the different frequencies of the light are interacting with surfaces, so it's all about the surfaces and the frequency of the light. I mean, I don't make the rules, of why they diffract at different angles, but they diffract at different angles because they hit the electrons on the surface with a different speed. So it's like a tipping point argument again. It means that when the electrons move, they don't move as far. So the ones that move far mean that when they go back to their original position, they're at a steeper angle. And so it just has to do with electrons. But that's all there is to it. I mean, it's exactly the same thing as this. The double slit experiment is actually a prism, because if you do it with white light, it will separate the colors. So it's exactly the same phenomenon in a way. I mean, no one really talks about that, but the double slit experiment is a prism. Can you describe in your theory prism separates? Okay. It's a good way to sharpen your argument writing skills. Yeah, well, I suppose. But again, I don't know if I would choose Reddit if I'm going to get into a protracted... I don't know. First, you have to see if there's anybody there willing to have a conversation about this subject. Like I said, every other physics forum I've gone on the internet, they won't allow anyone to have a conversation about origins, because they think every one of those is a tinfoil hat conversation. I mean, they deleted my comment. I mean, you go there and you write, I'm looking for a conversation about some of these fundamental assumptions of physics. And you politely ask for a conversation, and they basically say, well, even if people want to have that conversation, we're not going to let them. So it's that bad. Yeah, well, 5.8 gigahertz is pretty much microwave, so that's the problem. I don't need a directional antenna. I mean, frankly, the point is I have to receive the energy as just measured as electricity. So I have to produce enough of it so I can just measure it as electricity and just measure the total amount of electricity. So it'll be kind of obvious when you turn the antennas on, the electricity in the receiving antenna will go up. And so you're just going to measure for a voltage drop. And if there's no voltage drop, then obviously all the radiation from the antenna is actually getting to the other part. It's just that if you tune it to one frequency, you won't be able to see it, because when you have when you shoot two frequencies to the same location, it's like two radio stations on the same frequency shooting to one location, you won't be able to tune in either station, because they're basically going to jam each other. Yes, look, I know I need to debate people smarter than this chat. So all I really need is somebody willing. I mean, this room is open. I'll let somebody else come into the room and have the conversation. So we just need to find a physicist who's interested in having conversations about physics. That's all. I already offered physics girl, fame and fortune, and she wasn't interested. Yeah, a cheap 5 gigahertz VTX and RX, then do your setup. I don't know what a VTX and RX are, but obviously I need a transmitter and a receiver. That's all I need. But yes, I don't know how cheap they are. Like I said, the radar gun thingies are kind of expensive from my budget. But obviously, if I just create a cheap AM transmitter, but that's the point. I don't know if you can buy a cheap AM transmitter. I'd have to modify one and, put bigger transistors on it or something. How would you synchronize two antenna sources? Well, that's just as easy as could be. You have one device creates the signal and you just coaxial cable it to the two antennas. So that's the simple part. $12. I don't know. $12 isn't, prove it. Source, please. I'll stop bringing this up, but I think you will break through to people on Reddit's Ask Physics. All right, well, I'll look into it. I just don't do Reddit. I have no, everything I ever saw at Reddit was goofball stupid. So I just have very little, I have little confidence that serious physicists go to Reddit to talk about physics. Yeah, well, the moderators are going to be a problem. That's, because they just want to talk about published papers. They don't want to talk about unpublished physics. If you're not part of the club, there's no conversation with those assholes. So I'll make a note of it. Reddit. See, it's Ask Physics, right? So right there, you're in trouble because that's exactly the attitude. Oh, just come here with your homework questions. It's just the same bullshit. I don't know what 600 MW means, but fine. AKA 5.8 VTX. I don't know what VTX means either. So on Amazon, fine, is $12, you're saying. I can buy something for $12. Okay. And it's going to produce enough of an output that I can measure the voltage that it's producing. Again, understand, I can't, if I tune to the frequency, it defeats the experiment. I have to measure the signal strength, not the tuned signal strength. You also need to make sure your distances are right. Yeah, well, it doesn't matter. You have to be as far enough is all you have to be. So right is too close won't work. Yes, you have to be far enough, but anywhere far enough is good. Yeah. Or microwaves, you can do it in your room, but radio waves need to be outside. Yes, I understand that. See, every time the experiment's ever been done, they always make the mistake of putting a carrier tone on the wavelength. And it just defeats the purpose because, of course, if you can't receive the signal because it's the two antennas are jamming each other, then of course you won't hear the tone. But it doesn't mean the signals aren't there. It doesn't mean the energy didn't go there. It went there. You just can't receive it. You can't tune it. I'm just saying you got to try to understand what I'm trying to do here. It's like I can't use a microwave detector because it's tuned to a limited band. I have to have something that can tune into bands that would be twice the frequency. See, if you have two signals that are out of phase on top of each other, it essentially doubles the frequency. So you'd have to tune to twice the frequency. So if you were broadcasting at 5.8 kilohertz or something, you'd have to double it to 10 point whatever to be able to receive the new signal. That's a bastardization of the two out of phase signals. All right. You're standing on solid ground with the truth. You have nothing to lose and you do great. Yes, of course I do. Do as good as I can anyway. You have tried an AM radio. No, I haven't tried an AM radio because again, I have to juice it up. I can't use just a car radio or something. I mean, I can't. I have to create an AM transmitter that creates enough energy that I can receive it as an electrical signal on a separate antenna. See, if you go to a big tower that's shooting AM radio out, you can collect that. You can just put a wire up 100 feet away and you can collect it as electricity. You can measure it on a voltmeter, the AM signal. You can even probably hear it without even a radio. So the point is that I have to create a fairly strong signal, like some watts worth, 10 watts or something, 15, I don't know. Enough wattage so that at 40 feet away, I can receive it as a electrical signal. Hey. All right. You're standing. Okay, I did that. You have tried an AM radio. No. Like I said, I have to make a transmitter. So anyway, I mean, thank you for the help. I mean, I am just trying to make it understood that if you want to do the experiment right, you have to do it without tuning your receiver. They have RX. I wish you wouldn't use these whatever acronyms. I don't know what RX modules mean. You can get voltage readings from rest, RSSI. I don't even know what that is. So, I mean, quit typing acronyms at me. I don't know what any of that shit is. Again, to be able to receive the signal as an electrical signal, you have to produce enough wattage. I don't want to fucking microwave myself into the grave, okay? I don't want to be shooting a bunch of microwaves at myself to do the fucking experiment. Right, so you can't buy those modules without a license. Well, that doesn't help much. Do the force bits in your model all possess an equal quantity of energy? Yes. They're all exactly the same forever, all the tons, all the bits, except their two polarizations. So one's an electron force and one's a proton force bit. They move the speed of light. They have exactly the same mass, and the only thing you can vary is their frequency, and is how close they're together, or their polarization, which is how much they're in alignment with each other. But that's all you can fuck with. All right, you can't buy those modular license, right? We did. I have from Canada. Ah. Well, if you people have this stuff, then why don't you do the fucking experiment for me? That's what I should find. Maybe we can find somebody who has a good signal transmitter, a signal source that they can amplify. and just do like 20 kilohertz or something. And, then just take a steel antenna and walk 40 feet away in a straight line and measure your voltages. Now, see, again, signal strength indicator is not what I'm looking for. If you tune it to a frequency, it obviously can't work. You have to just detect the electricity in the antenna. You have to use like an oscilloscope or something, or a sensitive multimeter will do it. I mean, antennas pick up, real electric charge. So 40 feet away from a strong AM transmitter, you're going to pick up plenty of signal. Like I said, it probably only has to be like 10 watts. A 10-watt AM signal will probably produce enough energy for you to pick up the electrical. You could probably light an LED with it. There's probably enough electricity that you could light an LED with an antenna. But you can't do signal strength indicator. That sounds like you're tuning. You can't tune it to a specific frequency, because then you're falling for the dodge, which is the signal's jammed. You're not going to be able to receive it. Yeah, I know. Well, just say if you did it just for 10 minutes, you could get away with it. I'm saying if I just do a 20 kilohertz signal, there's probably nothing on those low bands. And so I create a little bit of noise for 10 minutes. Big deal. I don't think they're going to arrest me for that. They'd have to find me first. Yeah, well, oscilloscopes are nice. Will you have a used oscilloscope you don't have any use for? Yeah, well, I, of course, would like to have an oscilloscope, yes. But, they're expensive, so I feel bad. I mean, I really want to pay for one. I haven't really looked on eBay to see, because there are all these new ones out there. So people are always updating all the time, because they want to have 6 channels or 10 channels. They want all this extra shit. So there probably should be some decent used ones on eBay. But yes, oscilloscope would be nice. Yeah, I mean, the oscilloscope is perfectly sensitive enough to pick up the voltage in the antenna. So I'm just saying, all you really want to do is you want to detect the absolute voltage, not any specific frequency. Yeah, no, Tesla coils were for emitting, not for receiving. I'm telling you, some of that crap you get from China is damn good. So you can rag on it a little, but that $1 sound card, I got my second one. It's still in the package, so I can't show it. But it's just a little square box, little sound card, 2 input jacks for the speakers and the mic. The fucking thing works better than my sound card. Yeah, I'm always buying little this and that's from China. I have to, I have a bunch of stuff I bought that I haven't done anything with. I got some ultraviolet LEDs, really cheap. I want to make like a 10 amp LED, ultraviolet light. Well, I should say watts, I guess. Probably be about like a 70, 80 watt. ultraviolet light. It's pretty good. I think I have enough LEDs for that. Yeah, I do have glasses, so you know, they sold a one pair. You know, they have red and green ones. You know, and I'm saying, well, yeah, I want to block the green laser, so I want the green ones. But then they sold the red ones as if they blocked, you know, ultraviolet or you know, high blue light, and they were just full of shit. They're just block red light, so they misadvertised them. But yeah, they were $1, you know, so I bought them. They're actually kind of neat for going outside, you know, because you know, it changes the resolution, you know, which are, you know, it takes out a lot of glare, takes out a lot of stuff. So you see stuff you don't normally see when you go outside with, you know, UV glasses on. Well, green laser glasses. You know, I have a ton of LEDs. I got to do stuff with, you know, the strip LEDs. You know, they were giving them away, so you know, I got them so cheap. And so I want to replace everything in my house. I want to replace with strips of LEDs. But you know, no time for such things. Never get to it. All right, so things seem to be, yes, the flashing light is LEDs, actually. You won't be able to see it because of the light in the window, but it's a swirl of LEDs and they're timed, and so it looks like it's moving down the spiral and it goes up the middle and down the spiral. It's very quite interesting. Sort of an experiment to see if I can acquire epilepsy, you know, because it does fuck with your brain a little. So yeah, but I made it for $1, you know. It's $1. Well, probably $2 altogether. Yeah, we're sort of running out of shit here. So maybe I'll just keep it to an hour and a half today. Because I didn't bring enough to the conversation, and but neither did you people. You know, but I really there's so few experiments that you can do to prove some of this stuff wrong, but it probably won't mean anything. You know, if I prove that there's no interference involved with those silly radar experiments and the you know, radio wave experiments, that they aren't anything like the two-slit experiment. There's no light plus light equals dark bullshit. You know, because they're fundamentally different. I mean, you know, they try to make them the same, and they violate quantum mechanics in the sense that obviously it's not entangled photons or it's not wave packet photons. They're two separate signals of radiation, you know, of radio photons. And there's no evidence that they should interfere with each other. There's no evidence that separate photons should interfere with each other. So it's like, it's not even a theoretically good quantum mechanic experiment. I should be able to realize that. I shouldn't have to explain all this stuff, right? I shouldn't have to explain that it's not really a quantum mechanic experiment, right? I mean, somewhere in this whole conversation with these people and their woo, they really should get nailed down to whether they think different photons can interfere with each other, or whether single photons split into wave functions that interfere with themselves. They really should be obligated to pick one or the other theory. Yes, of course. I don't even, what's the point? You haven't watched a single one of my videos, right? I mean, gravity, whatever. Do use it have a ton. The whole theory is that gravity is the byproduct of the most random part of the force. As like cosmic background radiation, it's flooding the universe from every direction. These little bits of force. And so, of course, that's what gravity is. Magnetism is that force filtered. That is, the electron bits go one way and the proton bits go the other way out of the magnet. So they're filtering a polarized force, a polarizable force. But I mean, you just haven't tried to understand any of this. Again, on the channel page, videos, overview videos, in a playlist. Watch one of them. Jesus. Ah, there's Michael. Hi, Gary. In the case of magnetism, the matter is filtering. The electrons and protons are actually doing it, but yes, you can call it the matter. It's filtering force. Could it be possible that other materials, matter, act as a filter, but not to the same degree as total saturation, but more mixed? Well, even magnets are mixed. So I don't think you can make a magnet that has all the domains perfectly lined up and every atom is perfectly lined up and you're getting the maximum out of the magnet. So that's always a problem of the mechanics of the atoms. I don't think the atoms can stay together without having... It's like you can change a bunch of squares into a giant rectangle, but you still have to have bridges here and there that hold the atoms together. So not every atom can be pointed the right way or the whole fucking material falls apart, that kind of thing. So I think there's limits. But regardless, yeah, clearly everything would be magnetic if it could do the domain thing. If it had the right geometry, if the atoms had the right geometry to point in a direction, then everything would be fine. No, it isn't Miles Mathis, quite obviously. Miles Mathis is a flapping cunt. I look like a flapping cunt. He's obviously very proud that he always has a goatee. Do I have a goatee? Not currently. I may have in the past, but I don't now. So I can't possibly be Miles the Cunt Mathis. I'm also, 5 inches taller than the little putz. Oh, just joking. I hate humor. Hate it. Just hate it. Yeah. So only do it by accident. I mean, if you fart when you're typing, that's okay. That's funny. But don't do anything on purpose. Yeah, Miles Mathis really is an electric universe kind of nutter. I mean, it's hard to nail him down to any like specific thing, to really figure out exactly what he thinks is happening. But he might think oil is made inside the earth. Maybe he thinks that. But yeah, I wish I could. Well, I will eventually, But I mean, I wish the whole subject of chemistry is really interesting now that I understand electrons and protons so much better, because every molecule has this different geometry. The arrangement of the atoms. I mean, the electrons and the protons, and that geometry dictates, things like whether it's magnetic or not. It's just so obvious. I was thinking about metals and how they stick together, and that metals are so hard because each atom basically has to share an electron on all of its facets, whether it has 4 sides or 6 sides or whatever it has. But I mean, it has to share essentially electrons on at all these different points to be as hard as it is. So it has to have a lot of shared electrons. And when you think about the surface of the metal, you would realize that those atoms are going, how come I'm not sharing anything? I don't get anybody to share with. They're really in the mood to share, but they got no one to share with, right? So the natural tendency of the metal atom is to bond with other atoms. And it's very unnatural for it not to have anything to bond to. And that's why it's so eager to collect electrons, I think. All right. Temperature also seems to determine the matter's filtering ability of the force. Well, that's just obvious that, that just has to do with the alignment geometry is very subtle. So you can hit it and knock the alignment off, or you can heat it and create a bunch of heat, and that turns the alignment all off because you're making all the atoms move around. So they're not lined up anymore. But they're all little magnets, essentially. The atoms are little magnets. So all you need to do is put them in a magnetic field and they'll start to line up again. Just like little magnets. So, I mean, it's just, that's another one of these things. I think it's just such an obvious point to, is that the electron and the proton are the magnetic monopoles. I just don't know why physics hasn't drawn that conclusion, because it seems so obvious. I mean, they understand that it's the orientation of the atoms is what's causing the magnetism. They understand that it's because it's electron heavy or proton heavy at different ends. So why don't they understand that the electron and the proton are the monopoles? It's just, I mean, how can you not draw that conclusion? What stops them from drawing that conclusion? I was thinking of cold too, like the type of superconductive carbon. Yeah, well, you take the noise out, then everything can line up much better if there's no heat to keep things jiggling and disconnecting. So you take the heat out and everything stays where it is. I was thinking, okay, we did that. It's interesting to follow both mainstream science and your physics because the theories are so different. Time will tell to what extent your theory holds true and what current physics got right. Yes, unfortunately, time will tell, and I'll probably be dead. And it's pretty annoying that I, like Van Gogh, I'll die. In an unmarked grave or whatever, and this as a nobody. But whatever. I won't be able to enjoy my success. It'll be absolutely useless to me. But that's the way life is. So let's see, 5:40. Yeah, so we're almost on 2 hours now. So I'll give me another 10 minutes maybe. We'll see how it goes. Got to start writing more shit, people. Painter. Oh, okay. But he wasn't a good painter, just height. Well, I think Miles Mathis is a pretty good painter, actually. So it's better than I am. But well, I don't know. I gotta actually paint before I could know how good I am. I just don't do enough of it. But I wish he finished his paintings. I mean, he's painted some really, I think, some really quality paintings. And he just on purpose, I guess it's his style, but he leaves part of the painting unfinished, and I find it distracting. Hello?
Hi. Now eligible to receive a discount from JCP&L Energy Bill. To receive your discount, please press 1 on your phone now and speak to a friendly account representative.
Oh, fuck
Again,
you.
please press 1 on your phone now.
Fuck you. Criminals. Please press 1. Please do whatever we say because we're phone people. It used to be more fun when you'd actually get calls from people now and then, because then you could goof on them for a while. I like when the stockbrokers used to call me, they had some great deal, and I'd pretend I would be interested, and I'd have them on the phone for half an hour, And so it was just glorious, just imagining how, oh, yes, your kids are going to starve now, you motherfucker, because you wasted a half an hour thinking I was a mark, and I'm not. Uh-huh. Fucking cunts. Anyway, I guess you people are done, huh? You people are done, huh? Yeah, it looks like you're done. Okay, so I guess I'll be done too then. All right, so anyway, it is good enough room, I suppose. Not the best, not the worst. Well, I don't know. It might be the worst, but yeah, could possibly be. So yeah, could possibly be. But anyway, till next time and such and so forth and whatnot. Lots of stuff for me to work on and do, and so I probably shouldn't do these lazy rooms, but it is easier. Yeah. Anyway, I think the phone solicitor drone is marketable. Yes, definitely. Nuclear drones. A little bit of collateral damage wouldn't bother me too much. Yeah. Yeah. A few square miles is probably okay. All right, so likewise and such. Till the next time, and blah 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 blah.